Hello friends and followers, this is UFO Case number 36, February 2018. The year's flying by already. This case is going to be on International Space Station, Fakery claims investigated. Now searching the internet for IS fakery or hoax claims, there's over 1 million listings, and here's one from express.co.uk. I'm talking about some guy's channel called Eric Dubay, and he makes all these crazy claims and twists the facts to suit his own agenda. Now this is the case for a lot of FE channels known as flat earther channels, and often you'll find that people will say the space station is fake are also flat earthers. Now it's a growing movement, and a lot of people have been suckered into this idea that NASA is faking everything, and also that the Earth is not a globe and it's all CGI. I will look at some of the major claims and see what I can find out to see if there's any truth in what they're claiming. So before we begin, let's first of all see how we can prove the space station is in orbit. Now if you simply go to YouTube and do a search on how to see the ISS, you will find hundreds of videos showing amateur sky watchers and the equipment they use to take photographs and also videos of it passing above their houses. Here are some clips, or frames I should say, from their channels. I suggest you go and watch their videos directly to see the full explanations and how it's done. But as you can see, they get some decent images that represent the space station, and I guess the disinformation and hoax channels will say it's explained by a orbiting fake station or illusion caused by a holographic laser system, blue ray or whatever it's called, blue beam. Now you can find the location of where the space station will be at any time in the world by doing a Google search for IS space flight path, and you can find lots of websites and services available that show you all these nice graphic maps. And even in my country here, I can do a search and it tells you in the largest city, Auckland here, of what time you can see it and the other days and times it's going to be there. And so you would have to set up your telescope to be at a GPS location in the sky, ready for it to show up and start recording on a connected digital video device like a camera. So let's move on to this Eric guy again and his claims, or some of them. And here's a picture of him, and already we can see that he's big flat earther and that his channel got deleted by YouTube, obviously for copyright infringement or harassment or something like that. So his first claim is they use a 747 for 0G, and inside they got a mock-up of the space station. Now this is incorrect. NASA do use a 747, but it was used to carry the shuttle and also to have a telescope for experiments high up above the cloud layers. Now we can find out what planes they do use and some photographs and videos of it in operation, and we can look at the wiki pages, and that gives us most of the information we need to know. It says NASA used a 727, which is kind of a skinny plane, and you couldn't put too much in it, and you'd probably bang your head a lot on the ceilings and walls as you were experimenting with 0G. However, it was taken over by a 0G company that used a Airbus A340 or A300, and you can see they're not much deeper either, but they're a bit more roomy, and they're not the biggest plane that we have. The A380 is the biggest one at the moment, with 2 stories, but you can see this is just a single story plane. So he's clearly wrong on that fact straight away. And also, as you can read, it only lasts half a minute, 30 seconds at the most, 0G. And most of the video clips on TV and the clips I'm going to show you coming up on various other aspects of the debunking do last longer than 30 seconds. The next claim was the space station was very noisy like a jet engine. This is true, but it's a lower hum type sound, and its reason is because they got a coolant system and lots of fans to keep the pressure right throughout the space station and to remove moisture and scrub the bad odors from the air. Here is a recording of the ambient sound on the space station, and it's a constant sound. To me, it doesn't sound like jet engines. Jet engines would be increasing in power as it's climbing to do the dive of the 0G. Also, the plane, as you can see in the example coming up, is much more noisy, worse than on the space station. It's easier to hear the jet engines as well, I think. So the next claim is, if they're not using the plane for 0G, they're using harnesses like you use in acting stage performances and movie effects. Now, I had a quick look at it and zoomed in. The graphics was low quality though, and pixelated and blurry, as you can see from the enhancement, and there's not really that much you could do with it apart from verify that the ticks that he was talking about on the shirt were actually a tool on his belt that lifts up as he was bending down, and also some air pushing up the t-shirt on the other end, and it wasn't really making a tick, but it does look like that on the low res graphics. As you can see, the harnesses for stage performances, Madonna and all that, are quite visible, and they use lighten and dark backgrounds to try and hide the black wires, and you can see they have quite a big hefty belt around them that they try to hide with costume. And to do that on a space station with all the people is just crazy even to think about it without getting all the wires tangled. I got a video coming up here that shows you how clumsy it all is. Now you notice the straps going around and under the legs are quite hefty, and you don't see that on the trousers of the space station astronauts. Also, you can see the wire clearly, and as you can tell, it's going to be very hard to remove that real time. It's impossible. In fact, you have to do it with special FX editing, which I'll show you soon, of how to remove the wires. And also you can see how clumsy it is and noisy, and how thick the wires are. As you can see, it's quite a big room as well to be able to do all this and to jump up and to spin around. and those space stations are pretty narrow and full of wires and equipment all sticking out the side. Now here's some other conspiracy channels, and they like this video a bit. First of all, they think he's grabbing the wire behind him, the one in the stripes, but in fact you can see that's off camera there that he kicks something on the floor and spins it towards the ceiling, and the other guy behind goes and tries to catch it as it bounces off the ceiling. And not a wire or hidden wire at all. And also you can see other things in it, like the necklace is free floating and they wouldn't have wires on that, and also the pocket scene that's coming up, which I will go over. You can see these type of videos are very popular. He's got almost like 42,000 views on it, and also Security 10 used this video recently and it would have given him thousands of dollars for all the views.
It's a hoax. Are you really in space still?
Yeah, because the air proves that you're in space.
I don't know, we're going to have to
check
do
this.
something for
Check
you.
the man with a stripy top. Look, he grabs the wire above him. Now check the man on the right. With his right arm, he grabs the wire. Did you see it? Now check in slow motion. The man on the right, look at his right arm. He's grabbing him to stabilise him. Then look at the man behind him with the stripy top on. Now he's looking up and he's grabbing the wire. Look, he's looking for the wire to grab it. Yeah. Check that out, he's grabbing the wire there, look, he's looking up because he sees the wire moving about and he's grabbing it to stabilise it. Look. Now check the man on the right with the USMC t-shirt. Check his arm. Watch this.
You can see even the woman in the red was pointing upwards towards some object that had flung up as he spun around. And I don't think she would bring attention to any invisible wires. Now this one, they're claiming they're grabbing the wire to stabilize him. In fact, you can see in slow motion and zoomed in that he tries to grab the belt, but instead his little finger gets caught in the side of his pocket for a brief few seconds. And in this video they're playing around with a spinning toy. Now tell me how possibly they could do that with suspended wires, and the clip goes on longer than a 0G flight of 30 seconds. As stated before, it's impossible to get rid of the harness wires in real time. You have to put it through a FX video editing software using a couple of techniques, using green screen or editing the background and using chroma key and masking. These are just small clips from each of the videos. Go and watch the full videos. I will put the links in the description. Man, that guy's like a beanpole, skinny and tall, very tall. He could almost be alien. Some even use this wind tunnel with the big fan underneath that skydivers practice in, as an example of what could be done to fake the space station. Now, you don't see large wind blowing their clothes around and their hair around, and also you couldn't do these following experiments with water because it would simply just go splash up to the ceiling everywhere. Now, here are some following clips where they experiment with water or play with water, and they last longer than 30 seconds, so it can't be done in a 0G plane, and it can't be obviously done with strings and wires. So have a watch of these are quite fascinating. They aren't all the full clips, I've cut them down a wee bit as well.
Storing water tension in microgravity by dissolving an effervescent tablet in a floating ball of water. Well, it's not the most complex research ever conducted at a space station, but it's definitely one of the most interesting. Astronaut Terry Vert's experiment was a great display of how liquids can behave in space, and it was recorded by a new ultra-high-resolution camera.
Now, this one is quite clever. They add coloured dye to it and more liquid to it. It shows you what water tension is and how it naturally forms a sphere. Mother Nature is amazing. Why people think the Earth is flat when nature forms natural balls. Now, the next clip, some claim proves that it's fake, because his eyes don't follow the ball of water from the bats, despite that he's trying to focus also on the camera. And of course, eyes are going to micro look elsewhere, and if you slow it down, you're going to spot these micro movements of the eye, where it's not looking directly at the ball or experiment for a brief millisecond. Now, the next experiment is pretty damn amazing. They squirt a jet of water into a rag, and you can see how it goes straight across and doesn't fall downwards with gravity, and you can see how he can squeeze it back out and the water just pools around. It goes on for more than half a minute, and it debunks it being in an aircraft. And surely anyone that thinks this is on wires has got to have a mental problem.
Washcloth, like a magic trick. And now I'm going to get this soaking wet, and then we're going to see what will happen when we wring it out. Meredith and Kendra suggested that I dip this in a bag, but bags don't hold water in space, so instead I filled a water bag. This has drinking water in it. And I'm going to squirt a bunch of water into this washcloth. Okay, so here's a soaking wet washcloth. Get the microphone so you can hear me while I'm talking. And now let's start wringing it out. It's really wet. It's becoming a tube of water. The water's all over my hands. In fact, it wrings out of the cloth into my hands. And if I let go of the cloth carefully, the water sort of has it stick to my hand. Okay, so the experiment worked beautifully. And the answer to the question is the water squeezes out of the cloth, and then because of the surface tension of the water, it actually runs along the surface of the cloth and then up into my hand, almost like you had jello on your hands or gel on your hand, and it'll just stay there. Wonderful moisturizer on my hands. And the cloth doesn't really unravel itself. it just stays there floating like a dog's chew toy, soaking wet. Great experiment, worked perfectly.
And if you're still not convinced, here they film it in 3D. You need special red and blue glasses to see it three-dimensionally. It's just a clip. It looks like they even place a camera inside the bubble of water filming through it. So here's another channel that's mucking around with the video, putting a green filter over it and putting some cameras in front saying it's all green screen. But as you can read on the comment there, the only fakery is what he's actually done to the video. Now this other channel, the guy's got a bit of a foul mouth on him. He's claiming that there's little bubbles forming in space that proves it's CGI. In fact, it's just ice particles that are forming through the exhaust from the rocket leaving the space station, and they're spinning around and catching the light from the spaceship and also the sun reflecting back at the camera. He calls everybody idiots if you believe NASA's BS, fakery. He's got almost 67,000 views on this video, and as you can read in the comments, people are believing what he's saying, although one reckons that he's funny to watch with his rants. One of his claims though in the video is, why would they be playing with water and splashing it everywhere and flipping it off their fingers, and it would get into the electronics and blow it up. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. Now here's a few articles talking about the water on the space station. Basically what it says is they don't constantly ship it to them, and they get a certain amount of water, and the onboard systems, the cooling system and filtration system recycles the water from the shower and their urine as well. It talks about how it scrubs the air from odors and CO2, and that's what all that noise is on the space station. It's constantly creating a positive airflow, and of course as water droplets move out from them towards the walls, they've got fans that sort of suck it into the system and evaporates it, and then processes the water vapor in the air, similar to an air conditioner. And of course the droplets then wouldn't have a chance to get near the electronics, and also they form these little beads of water from the surface tension, is less likely to get inside the electronics, rather than it would set and skim off the surface of the electronics until the airflow captured the droplets. Now since they haven't got gravity to have a shower like we have on planets, this is how they do it on the space station. A little video clip here. And she also talks about the ventilation system getting the vapor and droplets.
I've had a lot of people ask me how I wash my hair in space, and I thought I'd show you how I do it. Let's see. To get started, these are the things I need. A bag of warm water, a little no-rinse shampoo, towel, and my comb. What I like to do is start by just putting some hot water, squirting it onto my scalp. And I have a mirror here so I can kind of watch what I'm doing. Sometimes the water gets away from you, and you try and catch as much as you can. Then I just work the water up through to the ends of my hair. And I take my no rinse shampoo and squirt it also on the scalp, just a little bit, and rub it in. Again, kind of working it out to the ends. And sometimes I'll actually take my comb to help work it all the way to the ends. And I like to take my towel while I have the shampoo in there and just kind of work it. Because without standing under running water, you kind of need to use the towel a little bit to help get some of the dirt out. I like to follow that by a little more water. It's called no rinse shampoo, but I think it's best if you use a little water with it. There, I think that's pretty good. And now as my hair dries, as the water evaporates from my hair, it will become humidity in the air, and then our air conditioning system will collect that into condensate, and it won't be long, and our water processing system will turn that into drinking water.
And finally, here's another one with a tool on the belt, and they like this one because they claim it's the harness and he's drifting across on strings. But as you know by those earlier videos, that it takes at least 4 to 6 strings to have someone fly horizontally across the screen. If it was just balanced where that tool sticking up is on the belt, then the balance would be totally off. The pivot point is totally wrong in that respect, and he would be smacking his head into the ground as he goes across in a gravity environment. Well, I'm going to wrap up the episode there, but I'll sign off here with some extra videos from the space station. Here you can see them eating a dinner, tacos from Mexico with mince and tomato bits all floating inside the shell, and no way is that suspended by wires, and obviously goes on longer than 30 seconds, so going into bunks using a plane for 0G. And also at the very end is a juggling clip, how they juggle in space, and it's quite amusing because you haven't got gravity for the juggling, and it shows you how they trick it. So I hope you enjoyed the little episode here, and hit the like button and share it on your socials, and remember people, keep questioning everything.